that you're provided with. We try not to have too many exercises in each of these workshops because we all know how important it is to not feel overwhelmed, but rather a really strong sense of what to do next. And our entire goal here at the Digital Economy Program and these digital marketing workshops is to make you feel empowered, not just educated, but you're like able to activate and execute on the things that we're talking about now. We are not doing PhDs in social media here, and nor do we need to. In fact, this stuff is moving too fluidly and too quickly, really, to have to stop and do a master's degree in it. Thank God. We can take what we need and we can, use our own judgments to say, this is the platform I need to invest in. These are the opportunities that matter for me and my business. Here's where my audience is, and this is where I'm going to start. So I try to reiterate every single workshop that our goal is not to leave with overwhelm, but really a sense of exactly what you can take from this workshop and hopefully activate. So as Matt mentioned, my company is Social School, and we've been helping small businesses, mostly in Alberta, to be honest, grow their online reach and their return for over a decade. And I've worked with some of you and have met many others online, and it's such an honor to be working with you further. So we're going to talk about three things today. First of all, mapping our digital marketing and social media tactics. So that means platforms, but also what we're doing within those platforms, who we're talking to, what we're communicating, and how we're doing it. We're growing on the last three workshops where we established our brand purpose and our deeper values and the idea of how we're going to get that across to our audience members without just surface level, content on the internet that doesn't resonate and isn't what people want today. And then, of course, 2 weeks ago, we built on that with who our audience is and what they need from us. So now we're going to get into tactical storytelling. The second part, we'll talk about what we call content pillars and content categories. And they are essentially an easy way for us to divide up our messaging into the main themes of our business so that it doesn't all sound the same. And so that when we sit down to pre-write our content and schedule it in advance if we can get there, so that we're not always on the fly, knee-jerk social posting the day of and having it run our lives. We know how to add variety and interest and different content types that keep people coming back for more, so that it almost reads like a magazine, with feature stories and how-tos, did you knows, behind the scenes, the really personality building, authority building, trust generating stuff that, again, makes people want to work with us, let alone stop to read our Instagram post or open our e-newsletter. And then we'll end by looking at some of our favorite and highly recommended social scheduling tools that can actually make it happen. So we do have a lot to cover. I hope you're ready. All right, so starting with story, and then we'll get into content and actual tactics. And, this grows on, again, some of those emotional connection points we've spoken of to date. And the idea is that we're creating copy and creative assets, so the visual aspects of our social media and digital marketing, that's going to convert someone to take action. It's not just, again, noise on the internet. It's the kind of thing that makes us have the power to influence our market and our audience members. And if we're doing this well and we're writing our sound bites and headlines and key messages and captions in a way that speaks to our audience in the way they want to be spoken to, and in a way that is super clear and compelling, it gives us a whole lot of power to do just about anything. When we're writing good copy, and this isn't just about copywriting, but it is content. However, copy is so important because it's our starting point. When I land on your homepage and I give you 6 seconds or less of my attention, I better be crystal clear as to who you are and what you do and what's in it for me, as we talked about 2 weeks ago. So when we're writing well, we have the utmost ability to influence and sell, to build that integral know, like, and trust factor, to clearly tell people what we stand for and who we are. What's our personality, our style, our values, who are our people? And then really make people aware of whether or not this is for them. And if it is, wonderful. I'm going to dive in deeper and get lost in your site and hopefully find my way from point A to point B as fast and as seamlessly as possible, because you've made that user journey nice and clear for me, and I know what to do next. So we can persuade people and we really start to win. And believe it or not, It's simpler than it seems. It's just that we like to overcomplicate it with too much technical jargon, too many words, too much information. And it leaves people feeling overwhelmed, and they go to find another solution quite often. Words that move us, they connect with us, they compel us into action. Those are the words that can move mountains and really make our business resonate with new customers, those top of funnel cold leads we spoke about 2 weeks ago, and those existing customers that want to come back around for more, and they want to advocate for us and refer others to us. And that when other people discover us, they too understand. I'm working with a highly technical clean tech company right now. And it's been an effort to convince them that, in fact, their stakeholders are not just the oil and gas producers that need this clean technology. And we can't just speak about methane emissions. Our other stakeholders are organizations and influencers and media and investors, and they speak English. They don't speak methane. And further to that, our third stakeholder group is the general public, because if they understand what we're doing, great. Now we're really winning hearts and minds, and we're becoming part of the natural conversation that anyone can hear a media story about and get, or that we can guest appear on a podcast and people will understand about this really cool Alberta made energy solution or environmental solution. And remember that you're not dumbing down your language, and you're not removing the important parts of it. You're just spacing them out a little bit. And if someone needs to get that much more technical, they'll dive in and find more. But if you confuse them off the bat, you lose them right away. So words come alive with clarity, personality, and resonance. And the personality piece we've talked about. And I don't mean you have to dance on TikTok or dress up and be a character. You just have to be real. That's what's required. I watched a webinar yesterday about the #1 trends on social media for 2022, and it was about streaming video. Streaming video, streaming video, streaming video. In early stages of social media, we had the news feed, and this was a revolution in 2005 with Twitter and Facebook. And then it became about video sharing in TikTok, when that became a thing in 2013, and then Instagram Reels copied it. Well, today we're talking about streaming video that leads one to the next. And they don't have to, again, be dancing videos, but they're educational, they're insightful, they show personality and trust, and they make me want to learn more about your business and actually choose you in this epic world of choice. Because remember, you might be making really cool shower caps for people that are, in your neighborhood, but I can buy a shower cap now online from anyone. So your audience is vast, and our choice as consumers is endless. So the connection is so important with, your audience to start off with. So I love this article here, and it doesn't just apply to startups who can't explain what they do because they're addicted to meaningless jargon. This applies to just about every company, and I'm guilty of it as well. I over-explain, and so we need. That's right, Jillian. We need to come down to a level that is, extremely relatable, again, to our audience, as we've been talking about for the last few weeks. So there's our story. Where can we weave in the pieces of our business and our people and the end result? Remember, the transformation that we're offering that really matters to people. Now let's get tactical. Let's talk about content. So we've got our A game. This is the elements that are different from the 4 Ps of marketing: the authenticity, the accessibility, the authority, and then ideally we get to the advocacy. We've talked as well about the B game. That was that whole belonging thing that we focused on in workshop #2, where if I feel an affinity towards your company and I feel like you get me and you're solving my problems and you're in my head, I actually feel a sense of loyalty, love, and belonging. I feel like I'm part of your crew as opposed to just a customer. I get you. I'm here for life. And then the third piece of the ABCs of modern marketing is, of course, the content, your C game. And this is where we have to remember, and this is interesting because it's shifted and it's uncomfortable for some people to wrap their heads around this, that the consumer is more in control than ever. We as consumers, you and I, have the power today to eat at any restaurant, go to any car mechanic, buy any shower cap, and get online and tell the world how we feel about it within like 4 seconds. And I'm now more of a marketer for you. And I might even have more reach, not because I'm some kind of influencer. I'm just a mom who's on the internet a lot. And I love to do Google reviews. I might have more reach than that LinkedIn post or channel that you've created that nobody's looking at, or those Instagram posts that are falling flat. And that's not to progress in a state of fear by any means, but it is to embrace that idea that if we don't tell our story, someone else will. If we don't set the stage and allow them to engage and embrace it and experience our brand in a way that makes sense for people, then they're going to do it for us in a way that we may not love. I gave the example of the company from Edmonton called Wild Prairie Soap a couple weeks ago, and how we worked with this company in some of our strategy sessions. And we were trying to figure out who their customer was and why these customers are buying a $23 soap sampler instead of a $1 bar of ivory. And that was the quote that one of the customers said to us, as she didn't know who we were. And we said, "Where'd you hear about this company?" "I've never seen their ads, but what I like what I love are the hands that made it." Because again, she knew enough about the founders and the owners and the employees and their vision. And that was outshining the marketing efforts, which is very unique, that she had somehow come across them, or she somehow knew about that story, and that they were really, truly achieving the goal of not confusing and building trust and authority and accessibility along the way through their content and their storytelling. So how do we do this? Well, we like to call it the content formula. And there's, millions of ways to do this, but there's sort of some simple questions to ask ourselves off the hop. First of all, who are we speaking to? And we've been addressing this here in the digital economy program. Second, what do we need to convey to them? And if you recall, it's not about what we need to say and what we need them to hear, it's what they need to hear. Solve my problems. How are you solving my problems? The moment I land on your website and I say, "Oh, what does this company do?" What I'm really saying is, what's in it for me? What do they do for me? And should I stick around and read more? And then a tactical piece here is what matters to us and our business goals and strategies for the year ahead, and what matters to our audience. And this is where we almost have two different editorial calendars, where it's like, okay, my sales goals for the year include my year end and my Christmas sale and my hiring blitz and my big spring contest. But what matters to my audience this year, or for the 12 months ahead, which I'm going to equally plot out across a calendar, are things like Mother's Day or payday or summer shopping or spring cleaning, whatever that looks like to them. It's the same as you would see in a magazine, where we are speaking to, or magazines are speaking to their customers at a certain time of the year with the Christmas gift guide for a reason. And that's what we expect as an audience to read at that time and to have shown or served up to us as resourceful, helpful, fun editorial content. But the companies that want to be involved in that know that they have sales targets at that time as well. So I know that might sound a little bit weird, but you'll see at the end how we have a bit of a mapping exercise for that can help you start to think about your goals and what you need to say, as well as your audience's goals or expectations and what they want to hear from you, plotted out across the year. And this is going to help with some of our bigger content creation efforts, so that we're not always just approaching every month with the same sort of content, but we have these neat little springboards throughout the year. It could be some conferences you're appearing at. Or it could be, I'm going to really take into account Earth Day this year, and International Women's Day, and the anniversary of Me Too, or something like Black Lives Matter that's more pinpointed to a day. And instead of just posting my token post, I'm going to insert that into my content calendar, because that really matters to my customers. And I'm going to do a work back campaign for 4 weeks where I highlight some of the most amazing people that have been involved in the last 6 years or 40 years of Earth Day. And now I've got something interesting, and it's going to fall within one of my content pillars, which we'll talk about in a second. So hold up. First of all, 3 things here. We need to declare what our must-know key messages are. What is the 5 to 10 most important things, or what are, that your business needs to convey to people? I have some leading questions to help you answer that. Second, what are your major milestones, events, and happenings for the year ahead? And again, part two of that, what matters to your customers. But these can be sales goals, marketing goals, it could be when your new website launches, it could be an expansion, a new satellite office opening. It could be, again, more universal or generic holidays, milestones and events, etc. And the final piece of this is to determine what we like to call our content pillars. So I'm going to get into what those are now and the content categories that fall within them. So content pillars and categories are they're used in a lot of businesses. You might have something like this going on already in your own business. And essentially, they're the distinct themes of our storytelling. And they're very useful. They're absolutely a tactical way for us to know what to say on social. And the most basic example of these, if you don't have something, specific to your business or you're not sure where to start, is educate, inspire, and entertain. Imagine if I divided up all of my social posts for the year ahead, of which I'm going to aim to post on Facebook and LinkedIn 3 times a week. And a third of those were educational, and a third of those were inspiring or aspirational, something that invoked a little bit of emotion, or maybe some action. And a third of those were entertaining. And I don't mean like, rom-com, maybe it's like documentary style entertaining, but that's where I go a little deeper and I have more behind the scenes video and I introduce you to our team or whatever it is. There's a few other examples here. Laugh, learn, connect, inspire. So, we're actually introducing a little bit of humor because that works for our brand. Then we've got our learn pillar, which is where we educate and we show how-tos and did you knows about our service or product offering. The connect is where we tell customer stories and we bring testimonials to life and case studies. And we try to find ways to really highlight those who've worked with us or who supply us with our tomatoes or whatever it is. And then maybe our fourth pillar is the aspirational, awe-inspiring, creative stuff, where we're focusing on other people in our industry for that kind of abundance mentality. Or, we're showing what we stand for, or just the bigger picture. Some of these might feel a little bit too woo-woo for you, too emotional, no problem. Plenty of businesses will build their content pillars around their products, myself included. And then I try to get more emotional within them. So let's say I'm a flooring company and I can't quite imagine how I'm going to divide my social media content into educate, entertain, inspire. But I can absolutely see how I'm going to divide it into commercial, residential, and renovation. That's where my flooring products lie. And I can create a third of my content around each of those buckets. And then within those, I can get a bit more creative and mix things up. I hope that makes sense. If you're thinking about this from your own company and you're not sure where to go, I think it can really help to either stick with kind of that educational, entertaining, inspiring, or decide what you might have as kind of a product offering that you can divide up. If I was to land on your homepage tomorrow and I saw 3 or 4 or 5 entry points for where to go next on what you sell or make or do, could those be your content pillars? At Social School, half of our content is around our social media and digital marketing. Programs, products, services, certificates, trends, studies, stats, whatever. And then on the other side of the pie, maybe 20% of our content is culture, community, people. So our faculty, our students, our partners, people doing really cool stuff in the digital marketing environment or community. And then we talk about small business and entrepreneurship because that's who our clients are. We talk about trends of work from home to startup to financing, just all the things that exist in the SMB life. And then maybe we have a piece of the pie, our fourth pillar. It's a skinny one, but it's carved out for that sales, promotional, product kind of push related stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. It's totally up to you how you want to go with this. And before I ask Matt to weigh in, I'm just going to introduce the content categories. So the way that we can then bring these to life with some variety, I guess, is to get a little bit of a sub theme going. So within my biggest pillar of social media and digital marketing related content, I'm going to have the ability to do top 10 lists, myth busters, how-tos, interviews, did you knows. And I have the same ability to do it in every other pillar. These are more universal, and really, truly, they're just a way to help you make your content a little more interesting. If every single article in your favorite magazine was a big, lengthy feature article that was like a long 3-page write-up, it would feel like you were reading a medical journal. But if on one page there's a top 10 tips for, winter cocktails, there was a did you know about how to save energy this month, or whatever it is. You've got these really kind of unique, soundbitey, clickbaity, interesting types of content now. Matt, what do you think? Does this make sense?
It makes sense to me. And I think it's from, as much as anything, it's like, it's having something of a plan, because on those days where you've got the list of the many things that you need to do in your business, to come up with something original or engaging or anything at all when you're at that moment is really, really hard. But if you know that every 3 weeks you do a Mythbuster, like it's there. You might not have pre-written it, like you might have to do that, but it gives you that's such a strong starting point, so it's having that plan ahead of time. And I'm sure things change and things can adapt, but when it's like you are feeling no inspiration in the moment, like I remember it, like I had a cleaning business in the UK, like I would be like, what the heck can I post here? Like I would have that all the time. But if I just decided, okay, once a month, I am going to do a roundup of the top 10 cleaning tips this month, or whatever it might be, it would have just given me something to latch onto. So I think, and I know you're going to come on to kind of planning as we go in this. I've just got a couple of things from the chat here. Sure. They're more kind of housekeeping things. Everyone will get an email with a link to today's video and to the resources that are being mentioned here, so the slide deck and things like that. So everyone will get that in an email following the session. It might be Monday, in fact.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, and I just saw a question from Chef Shiraz in the Q&A. How does this work for a restaurant? Great question. And I think we might all kind of wonder the same thing for our own particular business. How does this work for my dental clinic? How does this work for my tax accounting agency? And, this is where you have to ask yourself, what kind of stories are you able to tell? I'm going to flip straight down actually to the very first exercise in our workbook, because it has some questions in exercise 1 that I hope will act as leading or prompting questions for you as a starting point. And they're going to help define your pillars as well. So if you were to think about the key messages, and this is the very first thing that any agency, if they're worth their weight, will say to a client, whether it's a PR firm that's doing media relations for you, or it's a content firm that's going to help you post on Instagram, they're going to say, what do people need to know about your business? And this is where we go, oh, well, I hadn't really thought of that often, or no, they don't need to know that. Everybody knows that. Well, guess what? We probably don't. And you might assume I understand deeply your language or your offering or your people, but like, I'm a stranger to you. So consider us your cold audience that needs you to refine and define your key messages from simple to slightly more complicated. So if I was to say, okay, or the examples at the bottom of this page, what do I sell or offer? Straight up, there's an important key message I hope you're getting across. Well, what makes it worth buying? What differentiates our products or services from our competitors? What differentiates me or my team from the rest? What am I known for? Or what are we known for? And what do people love us for? Or what are we famous for? What are 3 interesting stats or facts about my business or my team or my product or our technology? What is one thing I wish everyone knew about our company? Or maybe 5 things. What is the biggest misconception about my business or my industry? And turn that into a key message. What are we striving for? And what do we believe in? Who are we serving? What are our customers most surprised by when they start working with us, or when they come to dine with us, or when they buy our gift card and it arrives in the mail in a shoebox full of glitter? What's our secret ninja skill or surprise offering, or again, differentiating factor, that UVP, remember the unique value proposition or the secret sauce we talked about in week number 1, workshop 1? What are 2 or 3 fabulous things about me unrelated to my products or services? Well, now we're getting interesting. I'm not just going to interview my CEO because I need to know a little bit about, that procedure that we're doing now on our puppies in the clinic. I'm going to ask him as well, what's your favorite dog breed? What's your favorite place to go walk a dog? What is your favorite, if you were to feed your dog anything, what would that recipe be? Well, now we've got some really fun behind the scenes personality building content that's actually resonating. I used the example of the dog trainer a few weeks ago, I believe, who was a company that we worked with, or I've worked with for years, where, she had grooming services, dog boarding, as well as dog training. And for her, she was posting a whole lot of memes and, just clickbaity, surface level stuff. And that was great. She's like, that's what people love. They want to see, the cat memes. Okay, but how are you getting a little deeper? What are you asked about the most often? What makes you good at what you do? What is your differentiating, belief system or education, training, whatever it is? And how are you conveying that? And if you're not, well, great. You need to somehow find a way to unearth it. And because we're not all just going to plaster a bunch of key messages onto the homepage of our website, we're going to weave them into our storytelling. And what those questions I just asked you, if you can write them out as key messages, that might be 10 answers that can turn into 10 blog posts for the year ahead. And a blog post is a juicy piece of content that can generally be pulled apart or repurposed, as we say, into like 5 or 6 social posts. And if it's not a really timely blog post, like about December 2021's mortgage rates, but it's more about planning for your financial future, great. I could point back to that blog post again in 4 months and 4 years, perhaps. So we're using our key messages as jump off points. Back to the restaurant question, it's up to you whether you would think your pillars and your key messages, and the idea is that you build your key messages and maybe you start to divide them into 3 or 4 pillars. And that, of course, is our exercise number 3. I'll come back to number 2 in a second. So if you had 3 distinct overarching themes of your very uniquely compelling, share-worthy content, what is that? Is it that you have educational content you want to write or create? Is it then that you have aspirational, inspirational content, and then you have some entertaining? Or is it like, in my restaurant, we have like our food, our beer, and our people, or community, restaurant or food. I said that already. I'm not a foodie, even though my last name is Doody. I wish I was. So this is something that you guys have to kind of think about on your own, whether you're going to have those more kind of fluffy pillars or you want to be product specific. If anyone has examples of what they think their pillars could be, please put them in the chat. I'd love to see them. Sammy is saying pillars could match up with personas. Yeah, they absolutely could. If you are thinking about your pillars in a way that's going to help you craft your content, awesome, and then reach the right people with that content, well, that makes perfect sense. In the same way that if I divided my content into pillars that were very product-based, back to the flooring store example, where I've got a pillar that's for my renovation market and my residential market, commercial, residential, and I think I said renovation. Yeah, then I'm kind of speaking to 3 audiences already. So that makes great sense. I don't want you to overthink this, you guys. This is just a way for us to have a little bit of depth to our content. And like Matt said, the whole idea here is that then we're getting away from this knee-jerk promotional content that happens on the fly. And if you were to now sit down a month in advance, which we're going to be talking about in the weeks ahead and the workshops ahead, is it allows you to say, okay, I'm going to write a few meatier, deeper blog posts that I can schedule in advance. So it's not all just about the latest sale or the fact that there's room at table 5 or that I've got excess t-shirts to sell or whatever it is.
Kelly, I've got a couple of kind of questions here. So my pillars, like, should I go and find out from my audience, like what interests them, or should I just kind of test it on the fly of what I think works for them? Like, how do I decide on what I know I have those questions, but how do I get it down to
Yeah.
the 3 pillars?
I think they can, well, I know they can evolve over time. We've had phases where our pillars are much more product based than others, and they become a little bit more educational or resourceful based. And, I think this also depends on where you're at in the maturity of your marketing program. If you're just launching your company and you really need people to know about like who you are and what you do and get selling your physical products quickly, you're probably using pillars that are like, here's my t-shirt line, here's my sandals line, and here's my candle line. And those are my pillars. That's how I'm going to divide up my content. And then within my t-shirt content, I'm doing how-tos, did you knows, Q&As, ask me anything, tips, tools, whatever, like fun content.
Yeah.
And perhaps if you're more of I'm a nonprofit, I'm launching tomorrow or this year, and we're more about fundraising and awareness, well, I'm probably going to lean towards something that's a little bit more of that emotionally charged content,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super useful. I mean, there's 2 things actually. There's one question and one thing that I just want to answer for people. So people are loving the information that you're providing, Kelly, and are very interested in the previous webinars as well, as an extension of this. So what I'm going to ask Rebecca to do is include in the email that we're going to send about this, we'll include the links to the previous webinars as well, so that people can go back and watch those. And then you've kind of addressed lots of these things, but a question from Barbara who says, should we be posting daily or rotating over platforms? Do we post the same content on different platforms? Yeah, how do we approach that?
It's a great point. Okay, so one of the things that a lot of us have done for most of our social media posting lives is, well, for one, we just dive right in and we start posting without a whole lot of strategy. And, oftentimes we think, well, this belongs on LinkedIn and this belongs on Instagram, and this kind of sounds like it belongs over on TikTok. And I'm going to create different content for each. Well, I think the thing about what we're talking about is if we can create, again, quality over quantity, and we can start with some of these meatier topics that can spill into smaller posts. Not only are we creating that thought leadership in those, I'm going to call them blog posts, because they're what I call pillar content. It's that top tier 1 almost content that is really rich and well thought out, and it's 3 or 4 paragraphs instead of one little one-liner tweet. And then it can be repurposed into smaller things. So we like to employ the idea of one meaty content piece per week. So one blog post. And you can come up with those 4 weekly topics for those blog posts a month in advance. And you can probably take a day to write out those 4 blogs based on those ideas and topics that you're generating by asking yourself some of those key message type questions. So I'm going to sit down in January and I'm going to map out my 4 blog topics for February. If I've decided that I'm able to commit to, say, 4 blog posts per month. If it's only 2 or it's only 1, that's okay. If you're not into a blog, but you want to replace that pillar content with a video or make it a LinkedIn article, great. But chances are a lot of you have a lot to say, or that the people in your organization do, and you're just not pulling it out of yourselves because you either don't think it's important or you've just not prioritized it. And I'm telling you that if you were to create 20 blog posts in 2022, it's, as I've said before, probably 20 more than you did last year. And it's going to work wonders for establishing you as an authority in your field, a trustworthy, credible business, someone with something to say, or a business with something to say. And it's going to give you so much social content to just pull out of there. And it starts to write itself. And now we can get into scheduling our content in advance. And, if you're wrapped up in that idea that like, I have to be more timely than that. I can't possibly pre-write, or how am I going to get that done? Build yourself a process. And I firmly encourage you to think about that month in advance method where you come up with that content. And if you can come up with some juicy stuff that's going to be easily repurposed into the less juicy, soundbitey social content, We can schedule it all the month in advance. And when February 1st hits, you're like, amen, because I have 4 great blogs and 20 great social posts in the hopper that are going to start rolling out over the next 4 weeks. Now it's the first week of February, and I'm going to think about March. I'm going to ladder it up to exercise 2, which is, I'll go back to here to explain them. So we talked about this 20 minutes ago, which was, what are the big things that are happening in your year ahead, if you recall, and what matters to your customers versus sort of what matters to your business. I can't find that slide, but I'm looking for it. There it is. So this is another thing that we need to consider. Because if I'm now sitting down in February, January's taken care of, and I'm like, hey, what do I need to say in March that I'm going to craft in February? Well, I need to think about what, again, I need to have some kind of visual, whether it's a little graphic or it's a spreadsheet or it's a sticky note. What matters to my people and what my customers and what matters to my business in the month of March? Oh, it's International Women's Day. That matters to me because I sell killer shower caps for women. So I'm going to do something around that, or whatever it is. You've got a trade show or a market to attend. Well, in February is when you're crafting that content strategically to drip out over the month of March, leading up to that event or that happening or whatever it is. So the magic of social media and the effectiveness, I should say, is when creativity meets process and those commitments. And I guess to answer Barbara's question in the longest way possible, I apologize. The first thing you need to determine after you know what platforms you're going to be on is how much are you going to be on them? What is the frequency I can commit to here on each of these? And I encourage you to try and think about getting just beyond only social to have a blog or an e-newsletter or some video content that is a little bit deeper, that you can do more than just say, you know, one caption with, and then let the smaller content kind of drip out from below that.
There's I don't know, there's a Gary Vaynerchuk, we've spoken about him previously as well, haven't we, Kelly? And he speaks so well about having these like big pieces of content. And he says maybe 10, you know, even if you just do 10, like you say, if you write 10 articles this year, it is probably more than 10 you did last year. And then splice and dice and repurpose it and, you know, take a quote from it and then record a 30-second video where you talk about it. Like it just, you can generate so much if you have that bank of big pieces of content, can't you? Totally. Someone here just says about, aren't blogs not getting the same eyes as video marketing, and kind of curious about your thoughts. But I mean, I've got thoughts, but I'm interested to know yours as well, Kat.
Yeah, well, blog content does wonders for SEO strictly because it's got written words that literally search engine crawlers, the bots that crawl the back end of every page looking for keywords that people are searching when they're querying, you know, dog walker. And so we need to have written content one way or another. Video content, I fully agree. It is what's easiest to watch. I bet if I polled all of us right now, 92% of us would say we'd rather watch a blog, like a video blog or a video, anything, an infographic or informational video, than we would read about it. However, we have to also be logical about and practical about whether or not we're going to actually create these kind of videos. Can you create educational how-to videos instead of writing them? Great. You could film 10 YouTube videos for the year and answer those key messages or those queries that people are searching and asking you all the time for. And then you could caption that into a blog post really nicely and cross-purpose it. So whatever that meaty, I call it that tier 1 content is, that is going to be juicy and doable for you, great. A lot of people though, when we say do video marketing, do video, they just get terrified and it becomes really easy not to do. I mean, much to that webinar I mentioned yesterday that I was watching about the trends for 2022, video streaming, short form video, micro video, reels, TikTok, stories, like we know these aren't going away. And they are a fantastic thing to have, absolutely, for personality building, all the A words, authority, accessibility, advocacy, right? But that's up to you. If you can find a way to do it, by all means, please do.
We actually have someone's business, Casey Crown, thecrownview.com, and her business is creating visibility and ease for female entrepreneurs using video. Because, and I know, and I think there was someone else there, and it was more about people feeling confident doing video. Like I know someone that's their business, is to help women. This is to help women feel more confident when doing video. It's it's not going away for sure.
Absolutely. We have 15 minutes left, so I do want to talk about our scheduling tools. And I know we've covered a lot, and you know, when I look to the workshops ahead, they're also pretty big topics. Or I would stretch this out all day long into more discussion about the process that month in advance. And we can certainly address that too later on if there's more interest in it. But we dive into specifics coming up, like email marketing. We've got to talk websites. We're talking about paid social. We're talking about analytics and insights. So again, we're introducing these concepts to you in a way that we're also trying to keep it simple. I don't want to talk about pillars and contents with you for 3 weeks or categories, because then we start to get in our heads. And the idea here is just to brainstorm ideas and start producing content without overthinking it, you guys, because that's what we're so good at doing, a lot of us. So back to the process. Once you've declared the platforms and the commitment for each, mostly like frequency and volume, but also like, how am I going to get this done? How am I going to get it crafted and strategized? Well, then where do I plug it into? So I want to present a few tools for you. And some of you will certainly be using your own versions of these, or, you know, maybe have already dabbled in some of them. And there's no shortage. There are literally tens of thousands of social media scheduling tools, project management tools, editorial calendars, etc. But Planoly is fantastic if you are really interested in scheduling and laying out your Instagram feed in a way that's got a whole lot of aesthetic appeal. For those of us that are a little bit obsessive maybe about how our grid looks. So that's that 3x3 or kind of 9 grid of images that you see when you open up your Instagram account. And mapping out in advance where your maybe single image posts and carousels and reels and stories fall. And then maybe you're also weaving in, like, you know, original photography with a graphic, with an illustration, with a video, whatever your content mix looks like. Again, this is however deep you want to take it, but Planoly is a beautiful tool. And you can, again, dump your images in, have drafts and different albums, and then pull them onto your feed to schedule them when you're ready. You can add the caption, you can add the links, you can add hashtags in advance, and now your content is rolling out in advance. They do have integrations with Twitter and Pinterest and Facebook, so I could auto post to those feeds as well. What I would encourage you to do is not use more of a singular or limited platform. However, I would encourage you to use one of the multi-platform tools I'm going to show you in a second, where you can switch up the language just a little bit. So it's not just cross-posting right from Instagram or Planoly, which is an Instagram scheduling tool primarily. And instead, you know, you're tweaking it just ever so slightly for LinkedIn, maybe a few less hashtags, or maybe a bit of a longer caption. And that doesn't take long. So what I'm giving you permission to do, not that it's up to me, but I would suggest that if you have 20 original posts or 10 original social posts, perhaps spinning off of your blog or being repurposed from your blog, as Matt was describing, or from that video you created, you can utilize those on different social platforms. You don't need to create 10 or 20 original posts for each of Facebook and LinkedIn, or Twitter and Pinterest and LinkedIn, or whatever your platforms are. You can repurpose that really well thought out content across more than one platform with small tweaks. Maybe that's even just resizing the image so it fits better on Facebook than LinkedIn. I hope that makes sense. The other one that I want to talk about that is a single or limited platform is Brilliant. This is like my absolute favorite tool. It's inside of Facebook Business Suite. And we're going to talk more about Facebook Business Suite when we get into paid social and promoted content in the workshops ahead, and how Business Suite is a no-brainer. Like it's absolutely where you need to be managing your Facebook and Instagram efforts from. It's, you know, got the ability to schedule your posts and plan them in advance, but we can also build our audiences, build our ad campaigns, run our promoted content or boosted posts, and it's got an inbox, which is literally like gold. You go in there and you've connected your Instagram, Facebook, and Messenger accounts, because Facebook owns all three of those. And you're able to answer everybody, including like comments, direct messages, every kind of social engagement, all in that one beautiful place called Facebook Business Suite. So business.facebook.com. We will look at it more in future workshops, but Facebook Creator Studio lives inside of that, and it allows you to beautifully schedule and, strategize your Facebook and Instagram posts in advance. And it's free, which is probably the best part. If you're really set on a multi-platform tool that does LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram together, because that's where you're playing, great. I would recommend 2. Social Pilot is fantastic and it's very affordable. And Content Studio at the bottom is even better, and it's not bad. They just had a Cyber Monday sale, and it was $350 for the year instead of its usual $500. They may have another Boxing Day sale, but this is where we have to get realistic too about our software fees every month. I hate to say it, but if you have a Canva account, maybe for $100 a year, that's going to do your DIY graphic design, and then you've got a social media scheduling tool or 2 for $30 to $100 a month. I like to think about it in manpower hours. And sometimes I have such a good tool that I'm like, it's like my other employee, and I'm absolutely willing to invest in that. So if you think that everything's going to be free, I hate to break it to you, but the more sophisticated you get, everything now is service as a software, and they come with subscription fees monthly or yearly. And it's just something to keep in mind. So Social Pilot's really nice because it's, you can, again, connect every social account to it, and it'll, schedule it with a really nice visual planner. You can add posts to your queue and then set up how you want them to roll out, which is that little graphic in the top right. And so if I've got a number of posts in my queue or in my library, and I've told Social Pilot that on Mondays at 8:30 a.m., 11:23 a.m., and 2:20 p.m., I want them to post a post on Twitter and then LinkedIn and then Facebook, it's going to do that for me. And it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. We are really trying to, get our pillar content, our done in advance content scheduled, so that we can then step into the conversation and engage when we need to. We like to say that scheduled content makes it happen, and live content or live engagements keep it real. So you're engaging with people, you are aware of when your content's going out, you don't disappear and go on vacation for a month and not pay attention to it. You're stepping in and adjusting as needed and learning from the performance of that content, from the insights that you're seeing. The last tool I'll show you is Content Studio. This is the one that I said is, the bigger sort of annual or monthly price tag. But it is incredible. I love it because it connects to Feedly and a couple other news aggregators. So if you want to use it to help you generate content, you'll have all sorts of topics related to your business or your industry that they're suggesting for you. It's of course got inbox, it's got visual calendars, it's got the ability to schedule your blog posts for you. You can connect it to WordPress and Squarespace. So it's just a really fantastic tool. And these things have come down over the years. There was a time where my agency paid $20,000 for one of these content scheduling tools for the span of a year. And luckily now we have really kind of seen some improvements there. The other thing I love about Content Studio is I can plug in my content. They call them categories, but are pillars. So I know that my pillars, I have 6 here, so I'm cheating a bit instead of 3 or 4, but I plug in my content pillars, and then I load up content in each of those category or each of those pillars. And then I create the schedule of when I want it to roll out. So now it's that next level of content publishing by pillar as well as by platform. I hope that's not too overwhelming. These tools take a while to learn. They are certainly not rocket science, but it takes an hour or 2 of getting to know it, watching the demo videos, understanding if this is for you or not, and if you need it yet, and doing a couple comparisons. But the reason I'm giving you just 4 and my favorites is to say that you can waste weeks of your life doing demos and trials. And, you know, the best thing to do sometimes is just ask around. What are you guys using for social media planning and scheduling? And then maybe also engaging or advertising or whatever it is. And hopefully you'll get right to your solutions quickly. But first you got to know your needs. Then you can go find, those right solutions quickly. So the idea is that we can see it all in advance, one way or another, whatever tool you're using, and you're starting to ensure that you're keeping your content on track. Content creation and scheduling, in my experience, is the easiest thing to wipe off your calendar and not take seriously. And then before you know it, 4 weeks have gone by and you haven't actually posted anything. And it becomes really difficult to re-enter the conversation. And to, oh shoot, I've got something I want to say today, but I haven't posted anything other than the odd like sale post. And that's when our audience turns away. All you're doing is engaging with me or posting when you need to tell me about a sale or get me to buy something. So there's no trust building going on, and there's no personality building and all those things that, make us come back for more. So I know that was a lot. I hope that you have, no problem, Susan. Thank you. I hope that you guys have gotten some decent ideas. We look forward to seeing you for workshop number 5. And I think, Matt, we do have some time for additional questions, would you say?
We do. We're going to speak very, very quickly now. Yeah, we do. We've got 1 or 2 questions. Yeah, so we could go for them. So someone just asked the question about AI. What were your thoughts on AI? Because we see more and more of social media posts that use artificial intelligence. Any thoughts?
What I've seen with social posts using certainly bots and chat bots in particular. AI, I'm not so sure. I think if you're referring to when there's, say, a chat bot or a social media post, especially in Messenger, where there's automated messaging going on. So I set up my Facebook Messenger inside of Facebook Business Suite with automated messaging so that when someone goes onto my Facebook Messenger and they say, hey, what are your hours? I know that's a frequently asked question. I've pre-programmed my automated messaging to be like, hey, Kelly, which it pulls from their Facebook account. Our hours are Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Where are you located? What's your, vaccination rules? So that is where we're using AI, and it's answering questions according to what we've input in some of these journeys, I guess.
Yep.
I can't say of any other social media specific AI applications unless it's really related to advertising. Certainly machine learning and chat bots that are really powerful. My absolute favorite chat bot, and I don't want to plug Social School, but we have a tools page, which is just socialschool.io/tools. And it's got 50 of my favorite tools. And there's a whole section on chat bots. But one of my favorite is called Help Scout. And it's got the chat box in the bottom. And then it also has a place for articles. So someone can choose to send you a chat or a direct message right there, or they can go into your articles of FAQs, and it's like right there. And people expect that.
And that's great, isn't it? It's like the tools are saving labor, aren't they? They're not creating anything new, but they're just saving you from, having to do it. We're all busy entrepreneurs. We have 1 minute left, and we don't have time, I don't think, for any more questions. But it's always been, it's great that so many people are engaged and obviously interested in the topic today. And like Kelly says, on the January the 13th, we're meeting to discuss the marketing mix. So that, it'll definitely be a great topic to start the new year with. So on that note, I'd definitely like to thank Kelly for joining us, and thank for everyone for registering and attending today's event. It's really been, a great information shared, and we look forward to seeing you all again. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Now.
Matt.
Bye-bye. Have a great Christmas. Thanks now. Bye.